Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of The Meaning of Life from Chris' Perspective. You're currently locked into season 2, the finale. I'm joined by a very special guest. Yes, I know I say that for all my guests, but they're very special and they all mean something to me. But this episode means something to me. You know why? Because I've lost my godmom to cancer, I've lost my granddad to cancer, and my aunt, he had breast cancer, but by God's grace, she survived. I'm joined by a wonderful lady, but I'm not going to say too much because this episode isn't revolved around me and the world doesn't revolve around me. But you know what, you guys that are listening via the audio, or even if you want to watch it in your spare time because you know you love me and this podcast on YouTube. I hope you guys are blessed and I hope you guys learn something from this young girl's soon to be testimony. I say soon because I want you guys to listen to it. So let's get straight into it. Masha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, we had a little technical difficulties, but we're here. We've made it. Gareth Southgate
Exactly.
really
Yeah.
messed up the final yesterday, so I'm a bit annoyed. But
Don't don't even get me started. Don't. Oh yeah, no, it's so sad, but it's all right. We moved. They did so well. I think that's what we need to remember, that we still came second. So.
second's not first. But
I
each
know.
to their own.
I'm just trying to make a positive spin on it. I was fuming last night, but yeah.
Fair enough. So, have you listened to my podcast before?
I've tuned in. We've got to support other podcast makers. It's tough out here. There's so many of us. But yeah, no, so I was very excited when you reached out.
Thank you, thank you. I was acting like a little fanboy when she said yes. I was like, yeah. But have you heard the time of a Christian CRB check from my episodes?
I have indeed.
Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about this, but yeah, I'm excited. I hope I
Okay.
pass.
Mm, well, there's no fails. There's no fails in God's world. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so what happens in the Christian CRB check is I ask you your name, age, location, la di da di da. Basically, a PG version of a CRB check. Okay, so what is your name? Like full name?
So, Maria Shushkina is my full name. We're, doing governments, that's fine. No, but people call me Marsha as well. Like all my friends call me Marsha, but a lot of people on Twitter call me Maria. And yeah, that's my name.
So how old are you?
I am 20 years old. I'm about to be 21 very soon. So that's going to be exciting. Big 2-1.
Lovely. Wait, can I ask like your birthday? Because, well, is it in July or August?
It is 25th of July is my birthday.
I'm 7th of August, but I'm nearly 20. Oh, lovely, lovely. Big boy scene. No, I'm 19.
Yeah,
Why did I say I'm
exactly.
20? I'm 20 next year. Oh my days. The age
Oh,
is getting
wow.
to
See?
me. The age is getting to me. But where are you from?
So I was born in Moscow, Russia, but I've grown up in London my whole life, in South London, so southeast at first, and moved to southwest. But yeah, London is kind of where my heart is. I love it,
Lovely.
just love it.
Shout out all the South London people tuning in. I myself am also from South London, so the little combo,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? Um, do you have any siblings?
I'm an only child, actually. Yeah, it's just me, just
Mm,
very small family. Yeah.
okay. So I don't know how, okay, about 15 years ago, it's 15, 16 years ago when you're like an early child. What was childhood like for you?
I've always been very creative. I was always painting, drawing. That was kind of my thing. I always liked, I talk a lot. That's why, hence the podcast. I was always trying to be a center of attention, whether it was drama or, being on stage doing something. So that was kind of my thing. And I think as an only child as well, I was always just trying to find stuff to do on my own. Um, but yeah, I was always just very creative. I think that was the main thing for me.
Okay, creative, creative. Myself too. I'm a little drama king as they label me in primary school.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but look at me. I don't do drama anymore. I'm doing a podcast because I love talking a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I
Similarities
can relate
between
to that.
us.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so what were your parents like when you were younger?
Well, good question actually. So my parents, we have quite a small age difference, and so they always raised me as kind of we were always part of a unit. It never really felt like it was parents and a child. It kind of felt more like we were just three friends living together, even when I was like really, really young. And so I'd always just be hanging around with their friends as well as a kid. And so I think I grew up quite quickly because of that. But yeah, we're very close. Yeah, I love my parents a bit. Like, bless them. Well, I'm going to get emotional, but yeah, no, they're great. They always have been. Yeah.
Okay, so just quickly, you said that you felt like three friends basically. Like,
Mm.
you know that show Friends? You know that
Yeah,
show?
yeah, yeah.
Do you think that had any effect on you growing up, like in terms of your social life? Because if you're friends with like, if you felt like your relationship wasn't really like a parents, it was more like friends, do you
Mm.
think you grew up a lot quicker in terms of, so when you're having conversations with your peers and whatnot, you're just thinking, I'm just so not you, mate. I'm just feel like I'm
Yeah, no,
30.
I think that was a big thing for me. I think stuff that kind of interested people at school, people my age, I wasn't really into it. I think, you know, a lot of the time, anything that was happening at school, I would come home and I'd tell my mum everything about it, and she'd be like, "Oh, that's so silly," and then I'd be like analyzing it with her as well. And I think it really helps actually because I think it prepared me for later life a lot quicker. And you know, I was very lucky that I kind of had that relationship with them because I never felt the need to hide anything from them. Really, I think a lot of people when we were younger, they kind of felt that barrier with their parents, and they kind of ended up in dangerous situations because they couldn't tell their parents about things. But you know, I knew that whatever it was, I could tell them anything. So it was good.
Mm. And it's made you the lovely young woman that you are now today. So
Well, thank
what
you,
can we
thank you.
say? Okay. Um, as you listeners, viewers, I don't know what you're listening to. You may be listening with your mom, your friend, your girlfriend, your boyfriend. You know what I mean? Marsha currently has cancer. Um, and I just don't know what to say. I'm just like, wow. So I'm just gonna go straight in to the deep end. So if you thought like, why is this guy saying dropping the bomb to her that she has cancer, and it's just like, what do you mean? What does this mean? Yeah, I just wanted to put that out in case people are wondering like, oh, what? Okay. So let's get straight into it. When did you discover that you had cancer?
um, so I discovered my cancer when I was 19 years old. Um, yeah, I was 19 and a half. And it was, you know, it was a huge bombshell, as it would be for anyone, and especially at such a young age. Although you know that young people get cancer, you never really think it will happen to you. And I was always a healthy kid. Like I was, you know, I tried to. I was quite sporty in a way. No, I mean, I'm lying, but I was, you know, I was athletic enough, is what I'm saying. I wasn't, you know, and so it really, really hit me. It just came out of nowhere. This kind of this huge kind of diversion in my story in my life.
Okay. So before you had cancer, what were you doing like before, like university, like what, like yeah.
Well, so I was studying religion and politics at King's College in London, and I was working as well at the same time at a travel startup, a media startup. And you know, my like I always remember 2019 as kind of like the peak of my life. I was having the best time. I was going out. I was at uni. I was working. Like everything just felt really, really right. And so I think that's why it was even more of a bombshell because it kind of just broke up this. It kind of felt like my story before and my
Mm.
story after cancer. So yeah, but yeah, I was doing quite a lot of stuff. I started my podcast in 2019 as well. So like I was just, you know, many fingers and many pies.
So it's going well because you know what, you know how you said you're creative. I feel like that kind of comes into it. You know, dipping your hands in like into many different pies, trying new things,
Mm.
working, doing well at uni. I presume, hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
And start on your podcast. So I'd say that's great. Um, so how did you discover that you had cancer? Like, what was it? Did you just go for a checkup? I'm like, yeah. If you don't
So
mind
the
telling the
thing is, I
audience.
mean, no, it's fine. So the thing is, what was bad was that I never really went for checkups. I didn't. I mean, I don't think many people like going to the doctors, and I have Russian parents, and we were always like, "Oh, if you're ill, like you just get on with it. Like you don't need to go to the hospital. You don't need to go to the GP. Like yeah, it's not that big of a deal." But then, in about August 2019, I just started noticing this really bad nerve pain in my leg, and it just wouldn't go away, and it just kept getting worse. It got to the point where if I was on the tube, I had to sit down. I couldn't stand. Then I couldn't stand anymore. I had to sit down. Like it was just so painful. And then it got to the point where I wasn't sleeping because of it. I just could not sleep through the night because I was just in agony all the time. And when you and don't do this, I'm telling everyone now, don't Google your symptoms, but that's exactly what I did. I Googled it and they were like, oh, it could be sciatica, it could be stress, whatever. And I was like, yeah, it's probably stress. I'm overworked, I'm at uni, I'm doing this, that, and the other. It's probably, I just twisted my leg or something and the nerve got stuck, not a big deal. And then I decided to go to the GP. They checked all my bloods, they checked everything, and they were like, yeah, no, it's fine. And then it got to the point where I had to go to A&E because of pain. Had an emergency MRI, and then they found this huge tumor in my pelvis that was, I think the size was 27 centimeters by 15 centimeters. So huge, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so basically that's how I found out. It felt like it went from 0 to 100. It wasn't like there were many symptoms. It was just out of nowhere, this trivial thing turned into cancer.
Okay, so how did that affect you, like mentally? Because I feel like when people hear that they have cancer, um, okay, let me just give you back in the story. Back in secondary school, well, an acquaintance of mine, yeah, me and her had like a good rapport, and it ended up coming out. She said like her mum had cancer,
Mm.
um, and she said she thought her mum was gonna die, like I don't know. I feel like people think as soon as they get cancer, or someone that they know have cancer, their initial factors are that they're gonna die. So how did you like process it? Like, what were the first thoughts?
Um, well, you know what? It was horrible. I'd be lying if I said that I was okay. I when they found it, they said that it was stage 4 as well. So you kind of, yeah, you essentially you feel like you've been written off completely. And the first hospital I went to, so before they were waiting for some of the results to come back from a biopsy I had, one of the doctors came in and said, by the way, we can sign you up for chemotherapy if you want to, but in my experience, I don't think you should because you're terminal to me. I think you will die. And so at the age of 19, I had this kind of huge realization that my life could end at any moment. And it felt like they had basically given me weeks, maybe. And, it's been over a year now, so I'm still here. And
Thank God, man. Thank God.
yeah, no, and so um, it was a crazy experience because I think I was completely numb. Like if you ask any of my friends or my family, I was completely numb for about 2 months. I didn't talk about it. I just anything that was happening with the doctors, I would do whatever they were asking me to, but I would not comment on any of it. Because it just felt like something huge had completely crushed me, and I felt like I couldn't handle it. And I felt like at such a young age, I've basically been told that your life ends here. Like, don't even bother thinking about the future because it doesn't exist. Um, and then something in me basically just changed. I was just like, you know what? No, I don't believe this. And when that changed, they actually told me that the scans had come back and that it's treated by chemotherapy and it's fine. And although it will be hard, like you'll still make it. And that's basically what it was. But it was a very long mental journey, and I'm still on it now because you'll have days where it hits you again that like, oh no, I'm not like everyone else. I am actually ill,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
have to deal with that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you did say it, but what type of cancer was it? Is that the right
So
word?
Yeah, so it's called a germ cell tumor, and parts of it also have there's sarcoma in there as well. It's quite a rare cancer, and the very kind of sad truth about it is that germ cell tumors are formed in the womb. So you've basically had this cancer your whole life, and it's kind of just
Wow.
brewing. It's just brewing in you, dormant, like a volcano, and then at one point it will explode, basically. Um, so that's been a very hard thing to look back on, because you kind of look at baby pictures or kid pictures of me, and you know,
Not knowing that
oh
you have
my
like a
god,
cancer growing in you.
exactly, like you know that that small child had cancer and no one knew about it for years, for 19 years, no one knew. So that's been like emotionally very difficult to get over as well.
You know what? I've just been like, I don't know if the word starstruck. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but I've just been like, wait, how on earth did you look at pics from when you sorry pictures from when you were a baby, like age 5? Like, how did you feel? Because if that was me, yeah, I'd just be like, why me? Like, wait,
Mm.
why am I looking at my bed? Why, why, why me? Like at 5, I had cancer. So, like looking back at those pictures, what emotions did you feel?
It's heartbreaking, honestly, because you just want to kind of take that kid and like give them a hug and be like, you know, you have no idea what's going to hit you. Like there's no way of avoiding it. Like it's already fact, and you just don't know about it yet. No one around you knows it yet. But I think I really, really tried to avoid the why me kind of rhetoric that's around cancer. I definitely had it at the very beginning, and I'm not going to try and say I didn't. I
Yeah,
asked God, and I asked anything, anyone that I could, why me, is why is this happening to me? And then I realized, you know, you can't take it as something negative, which is really perplexing, I think, to other people that
no, I
have
hear
not
you.
lived it. But you have to take it as like an obstacle that you have to overcome, and you know that if you overcome this, you will fly afterwards, and I'm ready for that, right? um and it just feels like you have to, although yeah, you've been dealt like the short end of the stick, it's awful, it's horrendous what's happened, but you just have to get through it. You have no choice, because what other choice do you have other than, you know, fighting through it?
You understand? I understand. Like that is just well, you know what? The fact that you're here, yeah, to me, um, I'm not sure if you believe in God, but I believe in God. I just believe that that is just a miracle in itself because a doctor saying that it was terminal, like terminal, that man, that man have called up the angel of death and said, yeah, 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 she's coming in about 5 months, mate. Make sure you're ready. So, in terms of hearing, like it's terminal, what was that? What were your parents' reactions, in fact? Because terminal, you know, terminal's like there ain't no coming back. It's like you're gone, you're
Mm.
gone. Like, so what was your parents'
um
reactions?
my parents' reactions, I mean, you know, they've been my rock throughout this whole thing. I'm so grateful for them. But when the doctor said that, my mum went off completely. She took her aside to the corridor and she said, you know, how can you possibly say that without finding out the scans, finding out all the results, finding
Yeah,
out all the information you can? How could you possibly go in and tell that to a child when, you know, you're telling her to sign the chemotherapy papers, but you're basically saying you don't care? And
literally.
it's just, you know, and especially I think as an only child, I think it hits even harder. I mean, it would hit in any circumstance with a child and a parent, but I think it's the fact that, you know, kids aren't supposed to die before their parents. They're not. And
Nobody wants to bury their
especially,
child.
exactly, and especially, you know, especially an only child, it's just like my parents have invested everything into me, and I'm so grateful for that. And so that was really hard as well when I was completely numb, but seeing my parents experience all those emotions, it was very difficult because I kind of felt so helpless. I knew that I didn't have the energy to help them with it. Um, but yeah, it was heartbreaking to watch.
Shout out to your parents because they seem like they're doing slash. I hope they're doing an amazing job because it wouldn't be easy. Because imagine like you said you had a friendship type relationship with your parents. So it's
Mm,
not just they are they are your parents, but it's
mm,
like having like a best friend, and to hear that
exactly.
their best friend has cancer, which is also the child. Wait, not only the only child, but it's the only child. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
but it's just like the world must have been flipped upside down. So now
yeah.
you've heard about your parents. So you said you went numb. Like, would you say you fell into like a spiral of depression?
I think definitely. I think, and unfortunately, I wish I could say that the hospital and the therapist they gave me helped. They didn't, unfortunately.
What?
Um, yeah, they came in. I mean, the first couple of weeks that I was in the hospital, they suggested to me to see a therapist that the NHS would provide, and it was just really disappointing because it felt like they were giving me kind of very cliched answers, or questions. Even it was just like, well, how do you think you feel,
Oh my days.
um that kind of stuff. It's like, well, what do you think, and all I could feel was this massive anger. It was like, do you not can you not appreciate the huge thing that I'm going through right now and actually
Yeah.
ask me something from yourself rather than asking something that you learned from a textbook? Like, you could tell that it was just the same stuff they regurgitate to every single patient. And so I told my doctor, I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Maybe at one point I'll talk to them again, but right now I just need to get through it because otherwise I'm going to get angry and I cannot deal with it. So yeah, it was a huge thing. Yeah.
This doctor's definitely got the questions from like WikiHow or something like that because there's no way on earth, yeah. Maybe me because I'm a bit emotional. Okay, very
Mm.
emotional, yeah. I'd just be asking them questions out of my heart, not the. Let me just Google what should I ask a cancer patient who's terminally
Exactly.
ill.
Yeah.
So how are you feeling? What do you think of life?
What do you think? Yeah, exactly.
Are you
It's just,
scared of death?
yeah, it was just very patronizing, and I feel like I sat there and I thought, I just come on, like, you're not kidding anyone. Like, this is not working with me. Let's just move on. I can't do this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so your first night in hospital, if you do remember that, how was that?
Um, Actually, my first night in hospital, that was a bit of a blur. But what I can say is that at first, because I was in so much pain with my leg and stuff, I was there for 2 months, just in the hospital. I lived in the hospital
What?
for 2 months. I didn't go home because I was in so much pain. Um, and the only thing, this is going to sound like the most Fiat 500 Twitter thing to say ever, but the only thing that was like kind of making me happy because it would distract me was I got into the hospital literally like maybe a day before the winter Love Island started.
Oh, so you
And
had to watch that
so,
with all the patients around you.
exactly. Well, yeah, or the nurses, they would come into my room and we'd just sit there and we'd watch it. And again, I was numb, so I wasn't saying anything, but I just remember kind of just sitting there watching it all run down. And I was like, it made me feel just slightly normal again, even though I was living in the hospital.
Mm.
But other than that, I just remember, before they actually moved me onto my ward, the first night I was sleeping in the kind of public ward, so the NHS ward. There's 6 other people, 6 other beds in the same room, and they're all cancer patients, right? So you've got people throwing up because of the chemo, you've got people crying all night long, and you're all together. And because I was 19, I was allowed to have my mum with me, and my mum just sat on a chair next to me all night long, like holding my hand because I couldn't sleep. I was so scared. They had to give me like sleeping pills because I just couldn't knock myself out because of the shock.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, no, it was a crazy time. I think a lot of it I don't remember the
yeah.
beginning because I was again so numb. I think it's just kind of erased in my memory. Um, but it was difficult.
You're brave. You're very strong. You're definitely very, very
Thank
strong.
you. Thank
You're
you.
on your way to beating cancer. So you know the doctor here that said, ah, it's gonna be terminal chemotherapy, la da 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 da. Have you ever spoken to him about the fact that because you're here now, a year later, 2, 3, was it in
I
2019?
haven't. Yeah, so I have not spoken to her.
Oh
I
hi.
yeah, so she said that one thing, and then 2 days later she came in and told me that it's not actually terminal in the end. And because they found out when they found out it wasn't terminal, they also found out what type of cancer it was, and she wasn't a specialist in that cancer, so I moved hospitals. So I didn't. Since then, luckily, I didn't see her. And to be honest, although I kind of want to come back and rub it in her face, at the same time, I need to preserve my energy, and I don't have the energy to kind of go and you know fight this woman. I don't care. I
Yeah.
honestly don't care. I think for me, it's just I know that what she said was wrong, and that's enough for me. Like that, I don't want to be. I don't even want to talk to her, to be honest. But maybe she won't even remember me. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so when did you start? When did you tell your friends and university, and what was their reaction? Yeah.
Um, so with university, I actually found out in December, and we were coming back in January for January exams and things. And I remember when I started going to the GP and was starting slowly finding out that things were going wrong. I remember I was really panicking because there was an exam in January that I hadn't revised for.
Yikes.
And I wonder if I actually need to revise for this exam, or maybe who knows. And then in the end, I obviously didn't need to. But I remember just emailing. Actually, did I email or did I call? I have no idea what I did. Maybe my parents actually contacted them. Um, but with my friends, the day I found out, I called a couple of my friends. And slowly, gradually, I was letting some people know that were around me. But what I did was at the beginning, I was very, very upfront and open about my story on social media.
Yeah.
So on Instagram, I I posted the day I found out that I had cancer on
Wow.
my story for everyone, because I feel like there is such a people are so scared of talking about cancer. Like even before I had it, the word freaked me out. If I heard it, I just there was something about it that terrified me.
Yeah.
And I
It's
was like, you know
understandable to
what?
be fair.
Well, yeah, no, of course it is. But I feel like that's why it's so isolating for people that are actually going through it, because they know that it makes people uncomfortable. And so I was like, you know what? I want to do my bit to try and change this story. And so I started just posting, my first scans, my first chemotherapy, everything. I would just talk about symptoms, everything on there. And so essentially, very, very quickly, everyone I knew found out, and obviously everyone was telling everyone. So um,
Yikes.
it
Wow.
was it was a very big kind of it was very strange, because there was a day when everyone was treating me normally, and then as soon as people found out, that's it. You kind of became labeled as a cancer patient, and that's
Wow.
like you could feel that people weren't acting exactly the same as before with you, and they were kind of treating you as precious cargo, which I understand why. I would probably do the same. But I remember when my friends started to visit, and I remember being like, okay, I just want to, have a bit of banter, like feel like it was old times. But you could tell that they were a bit on edge around me. But luckily that's changed, so it's
I saw that little
fine.
smile. Um,
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
but wouldn't you expect them to be on edge? Because imagine if you're in their shoes, you're sitting
No,
at the
no,
visitor's bed, and like their friend might be dying. Like, if that was my friend, God forbid, yeah. I don't think I could be busting jokes about girls and about Twitter and about all this stuff. I'd be like, bro, you know, I love you, man. How are you? Because what are you supposed to say? Like,
no, exactly, and that's why I put my hands up completely. I would have done the same thing. Um, I think it's just you feel like such a different person as soon as you're diagnosed. You're really craving anything that will make you feel normal again, and then you get annoyed when you don't get that. But um, yeah, no, I was just really grateful because I saw how genuine all my friends were. I think kind of for the first time, because um, when you're always just cracking up with your friends and stuff, you don't, but then when you put them in a really, really serious, tough situation, you see them for their true colors. And I'm just really glad for all the friends that stayed and helped, because I mean, I'll be honest, a lot of people couldn't handle it. And I lost a lot of best friends because they couldn't deal with it. And that I also understand, because it's a big responsibility trying to deal with all of this, and it's a big weight. But it was another kind of aspect of the whole illness that I had to deal with. It was not only I was ill, but I was also losing people around me that just couldn't deal with it anymore.
Yeah,
That was really
yeah.
hard.
So just quickly, how did that affect you losing friends? Because did you put any expectation on your friends, like, oh, I'm expecting them just to be there for me? That so yeah, just quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, without kind of giving out too much information to not upset anyone that may be watching this, but um, I lost a, a good close friend of mine, and it was really, really painful because we were very close friends, and they just didn't know what to say. And there were several times when I had to be like, okay, all I'm expecting from you is every once in a while I want you to check in. That's it. That's all I want. I'm not asking the world. If you don't want to visit, I understand. But at least just send me a text. It takes 20 seconds. And at least then I feel like you've remembered about me.
Yeah,
And, some people still couldn't deal with it. And I understand because cancer is such a huge thing. And for a lot of people, it's a very emotional thing because of family, like, and it's difficult because it brings up a lot of memories and feelings and emotions for people. But at the
yeah,
same time, I'm also a person, so of course, I expect stuff from my friends.
yeah. Okay, so we've gone over like the social aspect, your friends, your family's reaction, your university's reaction. Um, so you're technically wait, are you supposed to be in university or in university currently?
Well, actually, it was quite difficult this year because all my friends graduated this year.
Oh
So,
no.
because in the end, I dropped out. I knew I couldn't do it because I mean, I was at first, as I said, I was in the hospital, and then I was having chemotherapy every 2.5 weeks, and then I was completely out of it like a week after. Um, and I just knew it wasn't sustainable for me to try and go to university. But then also COVID hit, so it was all online anyway, and it was just too much for me to deal with. And unfortunately, the university wasn't very helpful. I mean, all they said was basically, well, fine, we'll see you again if you want to come back, but that's it. And yeah, it was a strange time because yeah, I should have been graduated. I should have graduated this year, this summer. And I'm so proud of all my friends that have. But it was also this kind of, you were cheering on from the
Bittersweet moment.
sidelines. Yeah, 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 because you knew that it could have been you as well, and if it weren't for this thing, you would have been done with it already. And so yeah, it's a bit upsetting.
In some way I understand what we're talking about. This may be a stupid comparison because I don't have cancer, but it's like because I didn't do the best in my GCSEs, I kind of had like to do a foundation year at my college, and I've been
Mm.
working hard. Not to try and brag or put that into anybody's face, not to undermine the fact that you've probably been working hard in your own studies and whatnot. But me still being at college, yeah, and seeing all of them saying, "Oh, we finished 7 years on the Snapchat," I'm just like, could have been me, could have been me, but that's
Yeah.
just all to me not paying attention. Yours is a completely different scenario. So in the comments, please don't flame me. Please don't post this on the clip and put it on Twitter. This guy's trying to
Oh
speak about
no.
not doing the best in his GCSEs to a girl that has cancer. Oh my
Oh no.
gosh, let's drag him. But
Yeah.
nah, I couldn't handle that. I'd have to deactivate, man. Okay, but on a serious note, treatment, treatment. I did my research. There's a, I think it's called a. Okay, so sure, scrap that. What types of treatment were available to you?
So for me, the main thing at first was chemotherapy. So shall I explain a little bit like what it is, I guess?
Yeah,
So I mean, yeah, because surprisingly, I feel like because I'm so involved in it now, I feel like it's so obvious to everyone, but not a lot of people know what it is. So chemotherapy is usually like a drip that you get through your vein, like an IV. And there's so many drugs. I think there's like more than 100 different types of chemotherapy, depending on which cancer you have. And and sometimes it's given as a pill, but so I have it as a drip. Um, and I'm now on my next cycle will be cycle number 18 of chemotherapy. So I've been through quite
Amazing.
a few. And last year I was on a completely different chemotherapy. Then they realized it wasn't working that well, and they changed it again. Then I had a huge surgery in July of last year, and was recovering in the hospital for 26 days. That's how brutal it was. And then probably for
Wow.
another month at home before I could do stuff for myself. And it was 12-hour surgery, which they to remove the tumor basically completely, because it was in my pelvis, so in my stomach, well, tummy, and they had to take it all out. And at first they thought, okay, we'll do the surgery and you won't need anything else afterwards. And so we were like, okay, we'll get through the surgery, it'll be fine, yeah.
Yeah.
And by that point, because obviously I wasn't on chemotherapy then, I was, my hair was growing back. I was like, okay, I'm feeling normal again. It's all fine. And then they did a scan after my surgery, and they're like, okay, there's still some left in there.
Some cancer.
Um, yeah, and unfortunately, it had grown back to nearly like the same size as
What?
when we started. I know, it was crazy. It was crazy. In the time I was recovering, it kind of started growing again.
Wow.
And they were like, okay, we're not going to try chemotherapy. We're going to try something called immunotherapy, which is like the new kind of wave of cancer treatment. And this is where it got quite interesting, because my health insurance refused to pay for immunotherapy. The NHS refused to cover my immunotherapy because, as my cancer is so rare, there weren't enough kind of studies to show that this drug would help my cancer.
Yeah, and I can
Um, and
understand the insurance, because why
and
would you give the
and
money? Yeah.
exactly, but I mean, just to put it in perspective, how rare my cancer is, there have only been 17, not 70, 17 documented cases in the world so far with my cancer. Yeah. So of course, how are you going to have studies, showing such a rare cancer? Exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so, we went back and forth to the NHS, the insurance company, and in the end, a charity actually funded my treatment. Had 3 cycles of immunotherapy, and it didn't help at all. It just didn't help at all.
Oh my
And
days.
so then in October last year, October 2020, I went back on chemotherapy, and here I am now. I'm still on chemotherapy. It's actually last week I had a cycle. So yeah, it's been tough because, in a way, it felt kind of like getting cancer twice. You were so close to the finish line, you started feeling normal again, and then
Yeah.
bam, you're back at basically square one. So it was very, very difficult to deal with, because I had to lose my hair all over again.
Wait,
And
just quickly. How did losing your hair feel? Like, because when I sit in the barber seat, growing out my hair, like, no, no, please, please. And like,
um,
especially for women, your hair takes a lot longer to grow back as well. So
mm,
yeah, how did
yeah.
that feel? Just quickly.
Well, so I had very long hair before I even had cancer. It was right to the bottom of my back, and you know, I love my hair so much. And at first I thought, okay, I'll just cut it. Like maybe it won't fall out that much, because sometimes they tell you that not all chemotherapies and not all patients lose their hair completely. So I was like, okay, I'll cut it. And then as soon as I cut it, I just noticed like huge clumps falling out. And it's the weirdest thing, because it's not just like individual hairs. You'll wake up and your whole pillow is just covered in hair.
Oh,
And so then I just gave myself a buzz cut, was having this little Angelina Jolie moment. I was
type
loving it, to be
vibe.
honest. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, brilliant. Then it fell out completely, and I was just really, really bald for months, and that was difficult at first. And it makes you feel like you're a completely different person. Again, looking back on photos, you're like, oh my god, was that me with hair? that's crazy. You know, that's a completely different person. Um, and you know, there was also another whole aspect to my whole story. I feel like I'm just rambling on, but
No, no, it's good.
um,
It's good.
I was going out. I was in a long term relationship, and then we broke up during my cancer treatment. And so out of nowhere, I kind of felt like I was bald and with cancer, single now. I was like, okay, this is just, it felt really, really sad because if you didn't feel like yourself, you feel like you're always going to be alone
Probably felt
now.
alienated, to be honest, because
Exactly. Yeah,
all of those
exactly.
things. Because of your
Yeah.
hair, you
And
feel kind of like naked. Then you're broken
yeah,
up. Then you're also sick with cancers. Like, what else could
what
make me
else?
feel even
Exactly.
worse?
What else? And I
Yeah,
feel like, going on social media and going on Instagram, seeing all your friends in like beautiful dresses and heels and kind of with long hair and extensions, whatever. And I was just sitting in the hospital bed, like, okay, brilliant. Okay, this is great. But then when it started growing back again, I was like, okay, wow, I'm on top of the world. This is great.
that's
And
great, man.
it lasted for like a month. Then I had to shave it off
Ah,
again. And I went on Instagram Live and I was like being very dramatic. I was like, okay, I'm shaving off my hair. I don't care. But obviously, I've never shaved a head before ever.
yeah.
So I was like cutting it with scissors and shaving it at the same time. And so
Oh my days.
it was so patchy. It was horrible. Luckily, then it all fell out, and now we're here. Because usually with chemo, it doesn't grow. Like if you're on chemo, it falls out, and then you just stay bald until you finish chemo. And so
Yeah.
weirdly, I'm on chemo now, and now it's still growing. So I mean, I'm not complaining.
Don't
That's
jinx it.
fine.
Don't jinx it.
I'm not jinxing it. Yeah, I touch wood, touch wood. But it
Okay.
was yeah, that was basically it.
Okay. So we already talked about like the mental side and how there were no mental health services that we call it. Well, the therapists were lacking like completely. So I'm just gonna ask you this full couple last questions now. Did you have like any higher power that you believed in to get you through this? Like if you believed in God, um, I don't know if you believed in the chakra stuff. Like, yeah, did you have any high power to go to?
You know, before cancer, I was always a very big atheist. It was kind of just like I don't believe in it. I was baptized and I was just like I don't get it. Something about it angered me. I think I felt like
Wait, having cancer or
there's
God or believing?
no God, like something about religion. It was for me, it felt like how can there be so much bad stuff happening and then there's an all loving God and an omnibenevolent God? It didn't make sense to me. And then weirdly, I had cancer, and it felt like, okay, you know what, there is a God actually. And I feel like that's the weirdest kind of trajectory to have. Um, but you know what, in my mind, I never even thought of it as God or a higher power or anything. I just felt it as this kind of energy that whatever it is, whatever it's called, I don't really care, but there is kind of fate or there is a plan. And at first when I was numb, I was still very, very angry, and then it kind of hit me that I just know whatever's going to happen, it will happen the way it's supposed to be. And I completely let go of anything that I was afraid of. And that made life a lot easier. And now, like, I wouldn't say I'm religious, but I'm definitely spiritual.
Mm.
And, every day I kind of go to bed and I wake up in the morning and I just say thank you to whoever it is that's looking out for me. God, ancestors, whatever you want to call it. I'm just grateful to be here. And who knows who's like helping me, but I'm not going to anger them. I'm just going to say thank you, whoever it is.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I say your story, your book, your book on cancer hasn't fully closed yet, but
Mm.
just when do you think your last chemotherapy will be, or do you know when your last thing will be, or is it when the cancer's gone, like completely?
It's a difficult question because before, so last year they told me, you only need 8 rounds of chemo, and I got to the 8 rounds, and then in the end I still needed way more. And now they don't really tell me. It's just chemo's every 2.5 weeks, and then we'll have a scan every once in a while to see what's happening. Luckily, the last scan was really positive,
That's
and
great.
so yeah, and so I don't have any expectations anymore. I think the biggest thing for me was that before I felt really, really ill. I felt like I am an ill person. That's kind of how I identified. And now I just identify that, I'm me. And every once in a while, I go to chemo, have my treatment, and then I go back to living my life, and it's okay. And so I just know that at some point I'll get through it. When, we'll see. It's fine. I can deal with it.
Of course you can, man. You're a strong person, strong mind, strong body. We love to see it. But what? Okay, I said this is the last question, but as I said earlier, I talk a lot. Last three, okay, we're nearly there. We're nearly there, people. And just to say, if you're still tuned in, God bless you. It's grateful to still have you here. Two wafflers, two elite wafflers, if you may. But what can we do to raise awareness about germ cell tumors? What would you
um,
advise someone?
yeah, so it's a tough question. You know what? First of all, I would say raise awareness for any type of cancer, because at the
Mm.
end of the day, my cancer is so rare, luckily.
Oh,
But there are the statistic that really scares me is that 1 in 2 people will have cancer in their life, and that is just, it's horrifying that, like, that definitely either you or someone will have it at some point. I think the main thing is that go for checkups. That's what I didn't do. I avoided it. Please, if you're feeling kind of unwell, just go and try and get to the bottom of whatever it is. The other thing is that there are so many amazing charities. Macmillan, Teenage Cancer Trust. Teenage Cancer Trust, I just have to big them up because they're
yeah.
incredible. I think there's something even kind of sadder about young people getting cancer. I think because it just feels so wrong. And they're so helpful in hospitals and things. They provide kind of excellent activities and and things for just to make people feel normal again.
Yeah.
But just do whatever you can do. And I feel like the main thing that I can ask anyone is just keep the conversation going, because people are so afraid of talking about it. But it's things like this. It's things like, I did a whole hour-long episode about my cancer story on my podcast. It's about all of those things. It's just about talking about it and making it known and making people comfortable with it so that they can go and get themselves checked as well and not be afraid of it.
You said what I wanted to say. Like, I guess it's the energies aligned, telekinesis or whatever they call it, reading someone's mind. But Marsha, I thank you so much for coming onto my podcast. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I honestly mean it. Like, the
Thank you for
reason that I
having
wanted
me.
you to, anytime, twice over, man. Like, the reason I wanted you to come on my podcast was for you to give your story, and you delivered just that. And I hope, let me just break the fourth wall now. Hope you guys have really enjoyed this story. I hope you guys have been able to take something away from it. But one last question, Marsha, in your opinion, what is the meaning of life?
That is a big question. The meaning of life, I think, is do whatever makes you happy as long as you're not hurting anyone. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks of what you're doing. Just make sure that you stand by that decision and it makes you happy and you haven't hurt anyone with that decision. I think that's the most important thing. Life is too short. It's just too short. You don't know whether this is our only life, whether we have another one. It doesn't matter. But you don't know how many days you have. And so every day, just do something that has made you happy. So I think that's the main thing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the season 2 finale of The Meaning of Life from Craig's perspective. And I'll see you for season 3 whenever, whenever I get my mind right. I hope you guys have enjoyed this season. Like, the season's been amazing. The guests that I've had, like, I'm truly honored that you guys have stuck by me. I decided to go on a new platform, YouTube. I don't really want to show my face, but everybody encouraged me. Like, I don't really watch the likes. Like, most people tend to the likes and the views, but the fact that I get messages and I see the comments and I have conversations with people is the true reason that I'm inspired to keep on going. So thank you guys for supporting me. I hope season 3 will be a blast. God bless you. It's Craig, your host, and I'm out. Peace.
Thank
Love
you.